The old space station, named Carthan's Hollow, floated silently near the edge of the drift sector. It was dirty, broken in many places, and full of people who had nowhere else to go. Ships came here for one reason: to buy, sell, or forget. Daniel. Reyes stepped off his small cargo ship, the Emberfall, and looked around. He wore an old leather jacket, scuffed boots, and carried a toolkit on his belt. He wasn't here for trouble. He just needed parts. He walked past closed shops and flickering lights. Many beings looked at him with tired eyes, but no one spoke. Daniel liked it that way. As he passed a dark hallway near the lower market, he heard something, a sound soft and shaky. He stopped. It came again, a whisper, faint. "Can I have a dad now?" "Please." Daniel turned slowly. The voice came from behind an old, rusted steel door marked storage. "Keep out." Curious and cautious, he pushed the door. It creaked open. Inside, the hallway smelled like old metal and fuel. At the end, glowing red energy bars blocked. Small room behind those bars sat a little alien girl with purple skin, silver eyes, and thin arms. She wore torn clothes and held a blanket to her chest. She looked maybe 8 years old in human terms. Her knees were pulled to her chest. Next to her, lying on the cold floor, was another figure, an older female, clearly her mother. She was weak, barely conscious, with bruises on her arms and a collar on her neck. The girl saw Daniel and froze. He stepped forward, slowly. "Hello," Daniel said gently. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't speak at first. Her eyes studied him, not with fear, but with something sadder, hope. Then she nodded slowly. "We're cold," she whispered. "She's sick. No one listens." Daniel moved closer to the energy bars. "Who did this to you?" "Slavers," the girl said quietly. "They took us when our ship crashed. No one came. Everyone forgot us." Daniel looked around. The room was locked from the outside, but no guards stood watch. That told him one thing: no one cared. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Telly," she said. He looked at the woman. "Your mom?" "Noted. Her name is Vara. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. I saved my food for her." Daniel's jaw tightened. He'd seen bad things in his life. Wars, loss, betrayal. But something about this little girl, whispering for a father she never had, made his chest feel heavy. "I'm Daniel," he said. I fix things. Ships, machines, maybe even lives." Telly tilted her head. "You're human. Most humans don't talk to us." Daniel smiled sadly. Maybe most should. A loud voice echoed down the hall. Heavy boots. Someone was coming. Daniel stepped back quickly. "I have to go. But listen to me, Telly, right? Not leaving you here forever." Her eyes lit up. "Just a little. You'll come back, I promise." He turned and left before the guards arrived. As he walked back to his ship, his mind raced. Who were they? Why were they still locked up in such a place? Why had no one done anything? He boarded the Emberfall and sat in the pilot's seat, but didn't start the engines. Instead, he stared at the stars outside the window. "Damn it," he muttered. This wasn't his fight. He could fly away. No one would blame him. But he couldn't stop hearing that voice. "Can I have a dad now? Please?" He stood up, had a promise to keep. Daniel couldn't sleep that night. He sat in his ship, staring at a small light blinking on the control panel, but his mind wasn't on machines or cargo. It was on Telly, the little alien girl, and her mother Vera, locked behind red. Energy bars like they were broken equipment, not living people. He had promised to come back. Daniel didn't make promises unless he meant them. He opened a storage crate in the back of the Emberfall and pulled out his old repair drone, nicknamed V. Scrap. It was round, dented, and slow, but Daniel had built it himself. With a few upgrades, it could help him do more than fix leaks. It could open doors. "All right, Scrap," he said. "It's time to save someone." He spent the next several hours working quietly. He installed a hacking chip, reprogrammed the scanner, and loaded small tools into the drone's side pockets. He also studied the station's old blueprint, which he had saved during a job years ago. He found something important, a maintenance tunnel that ran right behind the slave-holding area. "Good," he whispered. "That's our way in." The next day, Daniel walked back into Carthen's Hollow like nothing was wrong. He visited the parts market, bought some scrap metal to keep things normal, even chatted with a few old contacts, but inside his heart was beating faster. Later that night, he returned to the lower maintenance level. Most people were either drunk or asleep. The power grid in the area was old and unprotected, easy to manipulate. Daniel reached the power box near the back and opened it. He attached a small device. The lights flickered once. Then the energy bars failed, just for a few seconds. It was enough. Daniel activated scrap, and the little drone flew quietly through the side vent into the holding area. Daniel followed through the maintenance tunnel. His hands were sweaty. One mistake and he could be arrested, or worse. When he reached the other side, he heard a small voice. "Daniel." He looked through the vent. Telly was standing near the cage door, holding the bars. She smiled. "You came back?" he said. "I would," he whispered. He pressed a button. The red light vanished. The energy bars dropped. Telly stepped back in surprise. Daniel crawled out of the tunnel and stood in front of her. "I'm here to take you home," he said. Telly nodded and quickly ran to her mother. "Mom, wake up. He's here." Vara opened her eyes slowly. She looked weaker than before. Her voice was dry. "You came back? You're human." "I don't care what species you are," Daniel said. "No one deserves this." "Not strong," Vera said. "I'll slow you down." Daniel reached out and gently lifted her onto his back. "I've carried broken engine parts twice your weight. You're not a problem." Telly took his hand. They moved fast through the maintenance. Tunnel scrap flew ahead, scanning for guards. Daniel's heart pounded in his ears. Each step felt longer than the last. Then voices, guards. Daniel froze behind a wall. 2 slavers were checking the power failure on the control board. "If they're gone, we're dead," one said. "We'll check the cages. No one ever escapes," said the other. Daniel motioned for silence, took a shortcut through an old supply shaft hidden behind pipes. Telly held her breath. Vara tried not to cough. They climbed up through the waste shaft and came out near the docking bay. The Emberfall was right ahead, glowing under the dim station lights. But then a shout rang out. There they are. The slavers had seen them. Daniel ran, carrying Vera. Telly followed fast. Alarms began to sound. Daniel reached the ramp of his ship and hit the button. The ramp lowered. Telly ran in. Daniel jumped aboard and pulled Vara up just as plasma shots hit the metal wall behind him. The ramp closed. He rushed to the cockpit, sat Vara down gently, and took the pilot's seat. Telly sat beside him, shaking but brave. "Hold on." The engines roared. The Emberfall lifted off fast and smashed through the station's old launch field. Behind them, ships scrambled to chase, but Daniel flipped a switch, jumping to hyperspace. Now, the stars stretched. Blue flash filled the cockpit. Silence. They were gone. Daniel took a deep breath and leaned back. Telly looked at him, eyes wide with wonder. "We're safe now?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah, we're safe." Vara spoke, her voice weak but grateful. "You risked your life for us." "Why?" Daniel looked at the stars ahead and then back at the girl. "Because she asked for a dad," he said quietly. "I couldn't forget that." Telly smiled. For the first time in her life, she felt safe. For the first time in Daniel's life, he felt like something more than just a man with tools. He felt like a protector. The stars outside the window moved slowly now. The Emberfall had come out of hyperspace near a quiet system with no big stations, no warships, just silence and safety. Daniel guided the ship toward a small moon with a hidden supply base known only to old travelers like him. Inside the ship, Telly walked softly through the hallway, her bare feet making no sound on the metal floor. She held a small blanket Daniel had given her. It wasn't special, just a patchy cover from a cargo crate. But to her, it felt like protection. She peeked into the medbay, where her mother Vara lay on a padded bench. Her face was pale, but better than before. Machines beeped gently, Clean bandages covered her wounds. A soft light warmed the room. Daniel sat beside her, checking the medical scanner. He had no formal training, but he knew enough to read basic vitals. When he saw Telly, he smiled. "She's stable," he said. "She just needs rest, food, and quiet." Telly walked in. "She going to die?" Daniel looked at her gently. "No, not if I can help it." Telly stepped closer and looked at her mother. Then she turned to Daniel. "You're different," she said. "Different. You're kind." Daniel chuckled. "I wasn't always. I've seen bad things. Lost people. I stopped trusting. But you reminded me." "Reminded you of what?" He looked at her. "That kindness still matters." Telly sat down beside him. "Can I call you Dad now?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. That word, Dad, meant something deep. It wasn't a title. It was a promise. "If that's what you want," he said softly. She nodded. "Right. I already do." Later, Daniel went to the galley and heated some food. Simple broth and bread. When it was ready, he brought a bowl to Vera. She was awake now, weak but aware. "Eat this," he said, holding a spoon to her mouth. Vera looked at him, unsure. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you're not cargo," Daniel said. "We're someone's mother. No one ever helped us before, not even our own kind." Daniel sat beside her. "I don't care where you're from. You were hurting. That's enough." Vera closed her eyes for a moment. "I used to hate humans." Daniel nodded. "A lot of people do. Some humans earn that hate." "You didn't," she said. He smiled. "Let's just say I'm trying to balance the scale." By the end of the second day, Vera could sit up. She spoke more, asked about the ship, and even laughed once when Scrap, Daniel's drone, bumped into the wall by mistake. Telly stayed close. To Daniel, most of the time, she helped him tighten bolts, check fuel levels, clean the engine vents. "You're a fast learner," he said. She grinned. "Mom says I'm small, but smart." Well, small and smart is a good combo on a ship. They reached the hidden supply base, a human-run outpost called Station Marin. It wasn't big, but it was safe. No one asked questions. Daniel had friends here. He docked the ship and helped Vera walk into the medical center. The doctors there were kind, treated her without charge once they saw Daniel's face. He was known, not rich, not famous, but respected. After the checkup, Daniel spoke to an officer in charge of refugee records. "I want to register them both," he said. "They were held as slaves." The officer nodded and took their details. "We'll place them under human protection law. No one can claim them now." Daniel felt relief in his chest. The law wasn't perfect, but here in Station Marin, it meant safety. That evening, he sat with Telly and Vara on a bench outside the ship. The stars above looked brighter on this moon, as if the sky itself was watching them. Vara spoke. "Quietly, you gave us freedom." Daniel shook his head. "I didn't give it. You always had the right. I just opened the door." Telly leaned against his side and yawned. "This is the first time I've seen stars without bars." Daniel looked at her and put an arm around her shoulders. "This is just the beginning." They watched the stars in silence. For the first time, they weren't running. For the first time, they were home. Not by place, but by people. Daniel, Telly, and Vara stayed on Station Marin. Daniel helped fix old machines for credits, while Vara continued recovering with better food and care. Telly followed Daniel around, always asking questions and learning quickly. She had even started fixing simple wires on her own. Daniel had never smiled this much in years, but peace in space never lasts long. One evening, while Daniel was fixing a power core in a supply room, a message flashed across his CUM device. "Unregistered scan detected ship, Bounty class." His eyes narrowed. That's not good. He rushed to the control room of the Emberfall and checked. The signal. Ship had entered the area quiet, hidden, no landing record. It wasn't part of any trade mission. Daniel's stomach dropped when he saw the name Kelrex, a bounty hunter. Daniel had heard that name before. Kelrex was known for finding escaped cargo, including illegal slaves. He didn't care about laws or ethics. He cared about payment. Daniel ran to the living quarters. Telly was drawing stars on a tablet. Vara was resting nearby. "We need to leave," Daniel said quickly. Vara sat up. "What is it?" "Someone dangerous is here. He might be looking for you." Telly's eyes widened. "The slavers worse," Daniel said. "A hunter." They grabbed their bags and moved toward the ship. Daniel activated defense mode, locking doors and charging the engines. But before they could board, the alarm rang again. "Door breach, lower deck." Daniel pulled out his old plasma pistol and handed a second one to Vera. She could barely hold it, but she nodded. Telly hid inside a wall storage hatch, just as Daniel told her. Footsteps echoed in the ship. Daniel moved slowly through the lower hallway, checking corners. Then he saw him. A tall, armored figure stood in the dark Kelrex. His face was hidden behind a metal mask. His voice was sharp and cold. "You took something that wasn't yours. Human." Daniel kept his weapon ready. "They're not things. They're people." Kelrex tilted his head. "I get paid to return lost cargo. It doesn't matter what you call them. Suggest you leave." The hunter laughed. "You think you're a hero?" "I think I'm a father." Daniel fired. First. Kelrex ducked and rolled behind a metal wall. The plasma shot burned through a supply box. Sparks flew. Kelrex returned fire, hitting a panel near Daniel. The hallway lit up with red emergency lights.
Ow.
Smoke filled the air. Vara tried to help from the other side, but she was still weak. Kelrex moved fast and struck Daniel with a metal baton. Daniel hit the floor hard. Blood ran from his mouth, but he didn't stop. He grabbed a tool from his belt, a flash blaster, and triggered it. A sudden white light blinded Kelrex for 2 seconds. That was enough. Daniel kicked him back and slammed the control panel. A wall shutter came down between them. Daniel grabbed Vara and pulled her into a crawl tunnel. They crawled fast, breathing hard. "Where's Telly?" Vara asked. "She's hidden. We have to get him off the ship before he finds her." Telly reached the engine room. Donna looked at his drone. Scrap, sitting on a repair table. He smiled weakly. "Time for one more job, buddy." He attached a stun grenade and a tracking signal to Scrap's side, then set the drone to move toward the lower hall. Kelrex had found his way back into the main corridor. He was scanning for heat signatures. Then he heard something behind him. A soft hum. He turned. Scrap flew straight at him before Kelrex could shoot. The drone exploded in a flash of light and sound. The stun blast knocked him down. His body slammed into the wall. His armor sparked. The mask cracked. Daniel appeared behind him, breathing hard. "This isn't your hunting ground anymore." He stunned Kelrex again, this time with full force, and dragged him into the airlock. Tella ran to him just as the outer door hissed open. "Is it over?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "It is now." He kicked the bounty hunter out of the ship into a security pod, then locked it and activated the emergency beacon. Station patrol would pick him up in minutes. Later that night, the ship was quiet again. Vara sat in the lounge, holding her arm where she had fallen. Telly curled up on Daniel's lap, her eyes half closed. "You could have died," Vara whispered. Daniel looked at her. "I didn't, and I'd do it again." Vara was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I used to think humans only cared about themselves." Daniel looked at the sleeping child in his arms. "I used to think I'd never care about anyone again." Telly shifted in her sleep and mumbled, "Dad." Daniel smiled, even with pain in his side. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were a family. The quiet after the fight was deep and soft, like a warm blanket. Inside the Emberfall, the lights were dim. The hum of the ship's engine was steady. Daniel sat in the pilot's seat, watching stars pass by. His hands were resting on the controls. But his mind was far away. He wasn't thinking about fuel, wasn't thinking about repairs. He was thinking about a little voice that had called him Dad. For a long time, Daniel had traveled alone. He liked silence, machines, and keeping his heart closed. It was easier that way, but now everything had changed. Behind him, footsteps echoed softly. It was Telly. She climbed into the seat beside him. holding a small metal star Daniel had given her days ago. "Are we going somewhere new again?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel replied. "A place with green trees and clean air. A planet called Avenos. It's quiet, safe, good for starting over." Telly smiled. "Will I go to school there?" "If you want." "I've never been to school. I only know what Mom taught me and what you teach me." Daniel looked at her. "That's more than enough for now." Telly held the star tightly. "The other humans used to stare at me, but you never did. Why?" Daniel paused before speaking. "Because when I looked at you, I saw someone brave. I saw a fighter like you," she asked, tilting her head. Daniel chuckled. "Maybe braver than me." Telly laughed softly and leaned her head on his arm. "Can I ask something? Anything? I ever get papers, if the planet lets us stay. Can I take your name?" Daniel turned his head slowly to look at her. "My name? Yes, be called Telly Reyes, like you." Daniel's chest tightened. He wasn't ready for that question, but his heart was. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, you can, if that's what you want." Telly's eyes lit up like stars. "Really? Yes?" Daniel said, smiling. "You're part of my crew and part of my heart." She hugged him tight. "Thank you, Dad." He didn't correct her. He didn't freeze. This time, he wrapped his arm around her and held her. Close. The next morning, Vera joined them in the galley. She looked much better now. Her skin had more color, and she moved without pain. She watched her daughter smile and chatter with Daniel, and felt a warmth she hadn't known in years. "You've changed her," Vara said later, as she and Daniel stood near the engine room. Daniel shook his head. "She changed me first." "Seen many humans," Vara said. "Most of them feared us. Some hated us. But you." "I don't care what species someone is," Daniel said. "I care what kind of person they are." Vara gave him a long look. "She wants to take your name." Daniel nodded. "She asked me last night, and you said yes." "I did." Vara took a deep breath. "Do you want to be her father, truly?" Daniel looked down at his oil-stained hands. "I never planned to be anyone's father. I didn't think I deserved to be. But now I can't imagine not being." Vara placed a hand on his arm. "Then you should know this. When our people form family bonds, they last for life. It's not just a title. It's sacred." "I understand," Daniel said quietly. "She's yours now, and you're hers." Later that week, they arrived at Avenos, a green planet known for its peaceful lands and kind people. Daniel walked into the immigration office with Telly and Vara. The officer behind the desk looked up and said, "Purpose of visit?" Daniel replied, "We're applying for permanent stay. I'm registering them both under my name. She's my daughter now." Telly stood proudly beside him, wearing a small jacket with his ship patch on it. The officer looked at the names. "So, she'll be Telly Reyes." Daniel looked down at her and smiled. "Yes, that's her name now." That evening, they stood under the sky of Avenos. The stars above were soft and clear. Trees moved gently in the breeze. There was no noise, no danger, just peace. Telly ran through the grass, laughing. Vara sat on a bench, watching with a smile. Daniel stood beside her, arms crossed, heart full. "You look like a real father now," Vara said. "I feel like one." Telly ran back, holding a wildflower in her hand. "For you, Dad." Daniel knelt down and took it from her. "It's beautiful, thank you." He put the flower behind his ear, and Telly laughed. "You look silly," she giggled. "I am silly," he replied. She hugged him tightly, and he held her even tighter, under the stars. On a planet full of hope, a once lonely man had found a family. He wasn't just a traveler anymore. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was a dad, and nothing in the galaxy could take that away. Months passed peacefully on Avenos. The small green planet became more than just a safe place. It became a home. Daniel Reyes no longer felt like a man running from his past. He woke each morning to the sound of laughter instead of silence. He spent his days fixing local machines, helping nearby farmers. and teaching young workers about engines and starships. But his favorite time was always spent with Telly and VAARA.TEL. I now wore her name proudly. Her ID badge read Teleraeus, and she showed it to everyone with a big smile. She attended a small school on the edge of town. At first, some of the local kids stared. They had never seen an alien like her. But soon, they grew curious. She shared her knowledge of stars and ships, told stories of her homeworld, showed how she could fix a broken drone in 5 minutes. They were amazed. She made friends. One day, her teacher pulled Daniel aside and said, "She's one of the smartest, kindest kids I've ever met. You've raised her well." Daniel didn't know what to say. He simply smiled and replied, "She's raised me too." Vara, too, began to heal more than just her body. She started teaching at the local community center, helping others learn her native language and culture. People were surprised by her gentle wisdom and calm strength. Some of the townspeople had once been afraid of aliens. But after meeting Vara and Telly, many changed their minds. "Not all aliens are enemies," one old farmer said. "Some are just family we didn't know we had." Back on the Emberfall, Daniel kept the ship clean and ready, just in case. But he didn't travel much anymore. He didn't feel the need to run from star to star, the first time in years. He felt rooted. One evening, Telly climbed into the pilot's seat beside him. "Dad," she said, "do you miss flying all the time?" Daniel looked out the window at the stars. "Sometimes, but I don't miss being alone." She grinned. "I like space. Maybe we can fly again someday." "We will," he said. "But this time, it'll be different. This time. I won't be searching for something. I'll just be showing my daughter the stars." One day, a message arrived from Station Marin. A group of rescued aliens had heard about Daniel and his family. Many were lost, afraid, and unsure of where to go. They needed someone to help them, someone who understood. Vara looked at the message and then at Daniel. "We could help them," she said. "We could bring them here." Daniel nodded. "They need a ship, a guide, a voice. We can be all 3. So, the Emberfall lifted off once again, but not to escape. This time, it flew toward hope. Tella sat in the co-pilot seat, excited and ready. Vara prepared supplies and warm blankets. Daniel sent a message to the rescue center. "We're coming. Hold on." When the Emberfall returned to Avanos, it carried 7 alien passengers, scared, tired, but safe. People gathered in the landing zone. Some were unsure, but many remembered Telly and Vara's kindness. Children waved. Adults brought food and clothes. The new arrivals were welcomed, not with fear, but with open arms. Daniel stood with Telly beside him. One of the young aliens, a boy no older than Telly, looked up and asked, "Are you the man who saved her?" Daniel looked down. "No, she saved herself. I just opened the door." The boy nodded. "Hope I'd find someone like you." Daniel placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You already did." Weeks later, the small rescue shelter became a full center. People from different planets came to help. Daniel was often seen helping unload supplies, fixing broken heating units, or playing star maps with Telly, and on the door of the center, a simple sign read, "Home is not where you were born. Home is where someone chooses to love you." One night, under the open sky, the 3 sat on a hill near the town. Telly leaned against Daniel's arm. "Do you think I'll be a good pilot one day?" "The best," Daniel said. "VAAR," added with your heart. "You'll do more than fly. You'll lead." Telly smiled. "I want to help others too, like we were helped." Daniel looked up at the stars. "Then you'll make the galaxy better than we found it." For a long moment, they said nothing. Just sat there, together. No cages, no fear. Just a father, a daughter, and a mother. A family made not by blood, but by choice, trust, and love.